Hello friends, my name is Marines, and today we're going to be talking about TikTok and the future of book communities. I've been seeing a lot of conversation cycle around not only on TikTok but on other social media platforms as the TikTok ban is looming in the US, and a lot of it is focused around what people will do if TikTok is banned, specifically for content creators and for people who participate in that bookish community. I also have big feelings on all of this, and I've been reflecting on my own time on TikTok, so I just wanted to kind of sit down and yap about it. But before we jump into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about where I am coming from as a reader and a content creator. I've been making things online since 2009, I guess, is when I technically start the count. I am an elder millennial, which means that back in 2009, I was doing a personal blog, and that personal blog led to Snark Squad, which is the entertainment website that I own and run with my best friend Nicole. And we've been through all kinds of iterations of Snark Squad over the years, but it has been alive and kicking this whole time. From Snark Squad, I made the jump to making videos on YouTube. It was a combination of already being in a space where I was writing things and creating things and reviewing books and other media. And then I came across a video review of a book, and I thought to myself, I can do that. I want to do that. And I did. It was like kind of a slow jump into it. I started making videos via Snark Squad, and then I decided that I wanted to have like my own space for these reviews, and that's when I joined BookTube. At the same time I was doing BookTube, I was also on Twitter pretty early on. Snark Squad launched a couple of podcasts, and then in 2020, at the start of the pandemic, I, like many other people, also joined TikTok. And I was on TikTok for a while without doing anything related to books. I had the introductory experience into BookTok where the videos it was trying to feed me and being like, oh, you like books, how about these? We're all about Sarah J. Maas. And they were not review focused. It was very fandom focused around titles that I actively hate. And so my initial reaction to BookTok was just very no thank you, until I was spending more and more time on that app and I realized that I could just do what I always do and bring that to TikTok. And I will say that that mirrored a lot of how I entered YouTube. I think my second video ever on my own channel was a video of me discussing why I give negative reviews. And this was after I had given a negative review, and it was after like there was some conversation about like how we can't give negative reviews and we have to be positive and support authors. And I like jumped in and was like, no, that's not going to be me. And I remembered that I also had an experience with BookTube where like the majority of what other people were doing, or like the things that you get fed initially by the algorithm, they weren't necessarily what I wanted to be doing. And it wasn't necessarily the books that I wanted to read. And so I just started doing my own thing, and I did that with TikTok as well. Over the last couple of years, I have been more active on TikTok than I have been on YouTube, but I've kept this channel alive and kicking. I am apparently very good at keeping things alive and kicking. So I have been making videos here, but I have absolutely been more active on TikTok, and TikTok has rewarded those efforts like way more than YouTube ever has. I've grown my audience exponentially over on TikTok, considering that I've only been there for a few years. And so that feedback cycle of just seeing the work pay off more on TikTok also encouraged me to continue to invest in TikTok. So here we are a couple of years later with like a looming TikTok ban, and BookTokers asking themselves like, where do we go if this does happen? If TikTok stops being a usable platform in the US, like what happens to that community next? I want to start by saying that I know that right now I'm addressing YouTube. You guys are already here, but I do understand where BookTokers are coming from, because regardless of how you feel about TikTok as a platform, there is something to be said about like the big bummer that it is to have built something and then lose it, right? People put effort and energy into building a community and a platform, and to have that taken away is always going to be like a punch in the gut. And that is part of what I am feeling as well. I grew this community. It has opened doors to opportunities opportunities that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And that absolutely sucks to be losing. Part of what I wanted to talk about in this video is like what I have experienced personally across the different social media platforms and what I think are the strengths and weaknesses of them all. I will say for TikTok that the thing that it does best to me, and the reason that it really is a big blow for creators who may lose out on that platform, is that the discoverability on TikTok is unmatched. The precision of the algorithm and how that means that you can continue to find new audiences, that is completely unmatched by any other social media platform. It is why I was able to grow so much faster on that platform. The way that my content kept being pushed to new audiences, and they were audiences that had a high probability of being a good fit for my content. Each social media platform informs the kind of community that builds around it, and where TikTok, since it is very focused on short form content and just like the swiping of it all, the continuous feeding of videos to the end user, like that has informed Book Talk and the language of Book Talk and the community that has formed in Book Talk. And I think part of the pro of TikTok is that it does have a lower barrier to entry. There is a way that like YouTube has grown into this place where like things with higher production, things that look better and sound better will do better. Whereas TikTok, there was a kind of like just picking up my phone and doing something, especially in the beginning, that has continued to inform the content on TikTok, right? You can go absolutely viral with a grainy video that you shot in your closet. Then you just pick your phone up to like say the thing that popped in your head. And I think that it can be very intimidating to think about going from that kind of content creation to doing something on a platform that like maybe emphasizes more like higher production. And I say that for Instagram as well, where like the photos, the quality, the production of it all seems higher than what TikTok has encouraged. That is part of the reason that it was easier for me to continue to invest in TikTok, because it felt like there was a lower sort of time investment. I could just yap with a minimal editing, where on YouTube, it felt like I was investing way more time in recording, in editing, and putting together a video that was probably going to be much, much longer than anything I did on TikTok. Now, there are cons to TikTok. And one, I think, is like the other side of like the high discoverability, is that there was like absolutely no guarantee that the people who followed me and the people who wanted to see my content would see that with any regularity. It was very, very difficult sometimes to just get TikTok to show my videos to the people who wanted to see them most. And to that end, I call like Book Talk a community in the sense that we were all sharing this space, but I think it's actually very hard to form tangible and concrete communities on TikTok because of that, because like the people who follow you were very inconsistently shown your content, and because the comment section sucks. The comment section over there sucks so bad, both from the perspective of being very character limited and because the algorithm favors like the worst comments, right? Those are the things that are promoted in the comment section, especially as TikTok moved away from like showing things in like chronological order or allowing you to pin comments. It was just kind of letting the algorithm pick which comments to show you first, and a lot of times those were indeed the worst comments. All of the notifications from a content creation perspective sucked, and I often felt like I didn't know my audience at all over on TikTok, where on YouTube I absolutely get to know you guys and like recognize you in my comment sections and can even like predict what kind of comments you all might leave me on any given video. And that sense was absolutely missing from TikTok. So I think that YouTube does community better, or the way that it functions really allows for better conversation, which I think leads to better connections. I think that YouTube also is much more favorable to allowing you guys to connect with me elsewhere and to like convert you guys to other places and to be like, hey, click this link. Like there's a way that YouTube allows that TikTok hates that. TikTok does not want to bleed any of its users into any other platform. TikTok more recently has also become absolutely like borderline unusable for the number, not only of ads that it has, but it's all the TikTok shop stuff. Like the experience of using TikTok now really is like video, TikTok shop ad, video, TikTok shop ad, in a way that like frustrates me and has absolutely made the experience like 10 times worse. YouTube has ads, but I feel like they have maintained a way that you can kind of navigate around them, and there is more control of like the content creator for that experience of like whether to include ads and where to include them. And I find that more easy to deal with than the TikTok shop stuff. And even from like when I am watching videos, ads are always annoying, but I know that YouTube is paying people in a way that TikTok is not. I have such a bigger audience on TikTok, but I make pennies compared to like even posting once in a while here on YouTube. So knowing that these ads are actually helping towards revenue for like the people whose content I'm watching for free, that just gives me a better experience personally. I also feel this way about Instagram. I'll check Instagram stories and I'll start like, you know, clicking through and it's like story of someone I follow, story of someone I follow, ad, story ad. And those annoy me a lot as well because it's just so many of them. And I know you can kind of swipe through quickly, but every time it's jarring because of the way that I'm consuming, where I'm like looking and then seeing who's this from? Oh yeah, my friend. And I'm looking and then seeing it's an ad. And that sort of like jarring experience annoys me more than anything. This is all very subjective. The ad experience on each platform is going to annoy everybody differently, but that's just the way that I see it. It is wild to me to think about how much better I find the comment section on YouTube because I think for a long time it was like known that YouTube comment sections sucked, but like really every other platform said hold my beer to me. I'm not on Facebook anymore, but one of the reasons that I left it was because the comments suck so bad. Then I feel like maybe Instagram comment sections are like the next worst, but they're really duking it out with YouTube Shorts. I will say YouTube Shorts is still the bad place, and mostly because it's a bunch of children over there. It really makes the entire comment section experience on YouTube Shorts. It is awful. I was cross-posting for a little while things from TikTok to YouTube Shorts, but it was such a bad experience that it was like, this is not worth it. This is not at all worth the experience. So Facebook, like maybe YouTube Shorts, Instagram, then TikTok, then YouTube in my own personal experience. I'm also not on Twitter anymore. I decided to leave, and Twitter was great for a while, then got super bad after you know what happened. I'm not there anymore, and I am trying out Blue Sky, and I'm very much enjoying it. There are still quite a number of reply guys, but it's much easier to like curate over there and block and manage that kind of thing. And for the most part, the vibes are just early Twitter, which I very much enjoy. I tried Threads as well. I'm still on Threads, and I will go there and post like a hot take every once in a while because that's what it feels like Threads is for, like a hot take, and then also your feed is like the worst take of you've ever heard. And I hate the algorithm on Threads. I go there and mostly what I'm seeing is the stuff that popped off like 2 days ago. It's so weird. I love the way that Blue Sky is giving us things in chronological order, and you do have the ability to sort of like discover outside of just the people you are following, and that all makes sense to me in a way that Threads it doesn't, and it very much annoys me. I kind of hate Threads. I would put Threads like down with all the other like meta stuff. Facebook and Instagram and Threads are all kind of the bad place. Now, the biggest reason that I've seen people who do book talk not wanting to come over to YouTube is because they don't want to do long form content. There's a lot of I don't do video essays type of sentiment I've seen people express, and I absolutely get it because I feel like in like more recent YouTube times, like longer videos, video essays, higher production quality are the things that that have gotten successful, and it is like what has bred over here. But I don't know. My whole thing is that you can be the low effort yappy video that you want to see in the world. And this is like really what I want to express to everybody kind of considering what to do post book talk if that stops being an option, is that yes, every community on every social media platform is different. And so there is no one that is going to replicate what happens on TikTok, or at least we can't really know what's going to happen or what will rise from the ashes of TikTok if it does go away, or what the next social media platform will be. But you are not leaving TikTok with nothing, right? Even if your audience is not totally convertible, because not everybody's going to click the link that is buried on your profile or convert over or want to come to YouTube or want to go to Instagram or whatnot. So your audience is not fully convertible. Some of them will be. There will be people who follow you, so you're not starting from zero. But the real thing that you're taking out of your time on TikTok is, one, a well of content. I think part of the reason I was able to jump so quickly into TikTok and do well so quickly is because I was pulling from this well of content I already had on YouTube. I literally went through old videos and I was like, oh yeah, I can just talk about this topic. And I had already the books selected of like the weirdest books I've ever read. And I just made that into a TikTok. And so you've got this well of content, and like that has already been tested. You have the ability to go actually see what has performed the best for you in that community, and even save the best performing videos from that community. And that is like tested material, tried and true material that you can take with you wherever you go. And you're also taking with you a set of skills. Even if you don't feel like you have like the full chops, editing chops or whatnot, I don't know, there is a way that like content creation and talking to a camera and knowing what works for your audience and knowing how to talk about books and knowing how to position your thoughts, all of those are skills that you have been working on through your content on TikTok that you can now take into other places. So as big of a bummer as it is to lose TikTok, I wanted to like put that out there. And I don't know if this is too positive while the sky is falling, but you really do have content and skills and some portion of an audience that is still there, and that should give you hope for being able to continue to find the community and build the community that you want to see. To that end, I feel like you can go into any place or space that you want to be and find other people who are doing the thing that you want to see, and also do the thing that you want to see. And I'm not necessarily advocating for the TikTokification of YouTube, but I am saying that you have the ability to create the content and create the space that you would like to see. Here is like the big difference, I think, between TikTok and YouTube. I think that this is actually like the biggest bummer for people, is that TikTok happens to you. There is a way that TikTok is incredibly passive, and because there is such high discoverability, that you can kind of hands off, make the content, put it out there, and TikTok was in charge of like getting it in front of people. Where I do think that you have to be a little bit more active in BookTube and in YouTube in order to build a community. The ways that I have been most successful on this platform is when I am engaging with this community, when I am actively watching videos and commenting on other people's comment section and knowing what people are talking about. There is a way that you have to be more active in this space, I think, just because the discoverability isn't as good and the algorithm isn't as good. And so you have to actively start forming those connections in order to continue to build your community. And I just don't think that that's what people want to hear about YouTube in general. My experience with Instagram has been very weird because that started as a personal social media. So that audience has just been very strange for me personally to navigate, because I have old co-workers and family and people who found me because of book things all in one space. And I personally have just never felt very comfortable like understanding what that space is for me and where like the lines of my personal life and the bookish stuff sort of meet in my Instagram. I feel like every year I tell myself that this is the year that I like try and build out my Instagram, and then I actually never do. So that's my personal struggle with building Instagram. So we'll see over the next year if Instagram is a place that naturally absorbs TikTok's audience because of Reels, because there is already a place for short form content. The real thing that I would like to advocate for is actually smaller communities, regardless of which social media platform you end up on. I think that it is smart for not only content creators, but people who are invested in bookish spaces and communities to have direct ways to engage with and communicate with and be in community with the people that you value most. The lesson to be learned from maybe losing TikTok is that it is good to have ways in order to connect with your audience directly and to have communication with them regardless of what happens with TikTok or any other platform. Like just being able to talk directly to the people who enjoy your work, who value your work, who want to follow you in different places, I think is very helpful. And so there are a number of ways that you can do that. Discord, I think, has been amazing. Like truly my favorite community is my Discord are the people that I literally talk to every day. And it truly feels like a community, where we use that word for something like TikTok and like, I don't know, that isn't very tangible. This Discord is truly a community of people, and I find so much value in that. And so I think that is one way to make those meaningful connections. I also think something of a homepage or a home base is very useful, whether that is a newsletter or a website. For me, it is becoming my Bindery homepage, which is part Patreon, sure, but it is also newsletter-like, in which I can just communicate things to anybody who follows me. Even for free, I can keep in contact with them. I can write my more in-depth reviews. I can post videos or do text-based communication. And I have that core audience that regardless of if I, get inspired and start investing in Instagram, or I'm trying to make a video every day in December on YouTube or whatever it is, I have a place that I can communicate all of those plans that acts as a home base. And so I feel like I'm less at the mercy of whatever is happening with social media platforms if I have a place where I can communicate directly with people. I think as I'm reflecting on my time on TikTok, BookTok, I think, got a bad rap in a lot of ways. I think that especially from people on the outside looking into the community, there were a lot of weird ways that people talked about BookTok. And my thing in defending BookTok was never to say that BookTok doesn't have problems, but to say that a lot of BookTok's problems are problems that we have outside of TikTok. The whiteness of the publishing industry is not a BookTok problem, it's a publishing industry problem. The racism of algorithms is not a BookTok problem, it is a problem with algorithms. The lack of media literacy is not a BookTok problem, it is a problem in the United States. Now, there are ways that I think that TikTok and its format sort of fed into these things. I do think some of the superficial way that we are encouraged to interact on TikTok feeds into media literacy problems. I do think that there are ways that people's absolute refusal to read captions or search things on their own are highlighted on TikTok in a way that is incredibly frustrating. But there are so many problems I think that we will just continue to carry around with us from book community to book community that I think should be addressed on that larger scale, where people were book talk, in a way that was just kind of missing the point to me. And there are things that BookTok really did, which was hand sell books pretty much better than any other platform that I've been on, right? There was a direct tie from sales to what BookTok was doing and talking about that I think also informed some of the worst parts of BookTok, and not through necessarily BookTok's own doing, but just sort of the capitalistic response to BookTok and the way that bookstores and authors and people who were marketing to BookTok responded to BookTok, I think picked up all of the worst parts of that community. So that's where we are. I will miss it if that platform does leave. I have been having a worse and worse time on TikTok. which is also part of this, where I'm like, yes, I will miss like the stuff that I built there, but TikTok as a whole, like that experience has been getting worse for me. So there is like kind of an error to me of like, I don't know, it kind of is what it is. For me, my focus is going to be continuing to diversify where I'm posting and where I'm doing work, and being a little bit smarter about how I can take like one video idea or like the thing that I've read most recently and interpret that into the different platforms. I'll also be posting on TikTok until it's dying breath, right? So it is what it is. I'm already there. And of course, I'll be continuing to build out my bindery and to publish books and to think about my place as a Black woman in the publishing industry and how I can continue to iterate and grow and change and impact this industry. And that's why I will always like seek out new platforms and see what's moving there, and to continue to be an advocate for critical consumption of media across platforms, and to continue to do my little bit of like resistance in my existence in terms of just being a Black woman in publishing spaces, being bold and opinionated and just, you know, like I said, existing in all of these spaces. That's it for me today. I am so curious to hear all of your thoughts. Again, I know that this is going to skew to the people who are already here on YouTube, but if you are on TikTok, if you've been creating on TikTok, if you are thinking about like where you're going to go next, where have you landed? What has been your experience of creating on TikTok? Like the pros and the cons. What are your biggest hangups on either moving to YouTube or Instagram as your primary platform, or are you looking to something else? Let's chat about all of that down in the comments. I'm telling you, I'm being the yappy video that I want to see in the world. So come yap with me. And of course, if you want to keep up with me, regardless of platform, the best way to do it is to follow my bindery. You can do so for absolutely free. I will put the link in the description. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you guys soon.